Allegiance, please join. I pledge allegiance
to the flag
to the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Start off with any public comments. Bill, up.
I know you guys aren't busy. You don't have anything on your plate at the moment. But I wanted to quickly raise a little something, and it's really fortuitous that Ken's here because I was going to ask if you could potentially speak to him. I had raised this once before, but it's that time of the year again when the island is invaded by drivers that are not usually on the island. And during most of the year, the vast majority of drivers on the island are very polite, very nice. But you get, at this time of the year, a number of drivers who, as regards cyclists, are a bit dangerous, and they don't know that the law here in Suffolk County is that if you pass a cyclist, you gotta give them 3 feet at least. Now, for some reason or other, Second Bridge is always an issue, and I know I've said that before. And New York Avenue, Manwaring, a couple of things near the South Ferry are areas. And I'm not concerned as much for someone like myself because I can hold my line when somebody gets close. But I'm worried about kids. I'm worried about those who, hey, I'm to Shelter Island, I can get on a bike and just go somewhere. And a car gets close and they get squirrely and God knows what happens. So Christina, could you just for a sec? Here's a sign that is for Martha's Vineyard. And it's not totally appropriate because that's the law here is 3 feet, not 4 feet. But if we could get maybe a dozen of these signs that could be put in the most, what I would consider dangerous areas like Second Bridge, like by the South Ferry, Manwaring and New York Avenue, that say, motorists, give 4 feet to pass. It's the law. It's nice to say that. We're not going to affect everyone. I know that. I'm not but it might at the margins just help. And if it prevents one kid from getting hit, I mean, hopefully someone will that expensive. You know, it would be something that I think could be helpful to everything. I know there's so much else on the plate, but you know, I figured this isn't a very charged item to talk about. I think I heard some of those recently.
I loved that last night.
No, I like this idea, because I think people don't.
Well, you
know
have
that.
previously, we've had some
Yeah.
conversation about this, Meg. And one thing, if it helps you at any time, if you guys ever wanted to have an event where you were focused on cycling safety or cycling tips, I would gladly participate. And I've done that. I've been a leader in leading group rides forever. I try to talk to safety all the time. If it works to something, I'll come. I have some PowerPoints I've used in the past. I can put together wherever, if it was at the library, anywhere. I'm available. But thank you for listening, especially a less charged item. And if we can do something in this regard, it would be great. I also realize how busy, seriously everybody is at the moment. And this wouldn't be the top priority, but if we can save one kid from getting hit, it would be great. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, then you talk about.
So, yeah, you want me to
Come
come?
Yes, please.
So I was just gonna say, I'm Ken Lewis, Highway Superintendent, for those you don't know. I was just gonna say to Bill that if you wanna send me an email with a list of some of the spots that you've identified, we can go over it together and then I can look at getting these signs. And I'll also coordinate, I'll talk to Chief Reed to just make sure that we have the legal distance correct and discuss that too. But I'm not averse to doing this, so yeah, I'd be happy to work with you on it if you want.
And I just have a question, like, so some of the signs would probably be good coming off of like South Ferry on 114. So would we have to coordinate with the state on where we could place those?
I probably would, but I have a very good connection with the maintenance manager for the state at the Riverhead Yard. So I could ask him about that.
Yeah.
For sure. There is a sign somewhere on 114, pretty close to coming off South Ferry, that says something about cyclists, but not as specific as that.
Yeah.
So,
It's a shared road.
yeah, I think it says something like that. So, but I can talk about placement for those, but as far as the other ones go, we can put them where we think they're necessary.
I'll be in touch.
Yeah.
I know about it.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay.
Okay.
It's late in the season and it's not quite Green Expo, but could we do a table? Set up a table at the
I
arts and
would
crafts
be a
fair.
volunteer if we
Mhm.
do that.
Yeah, just,
Yeah.
you know, more information, you know, it's late in the season, but maybe some of it would stick for next season.
Anything that helps safety, I know.
We could definitely do a bicycle safety table at the Green Expo. Just
Okay.
email Tim Pertel, because he's coordinating all the tables.
Gotcha. Okay.
You know, Bill, we have these police signs, you know, the mobile signs, that the speed limit signs,
Yes.
where they send messages on.
Oh, I didn't even think of that. That would be
Okay,
something.
that might be something from, you know, that, you know, the law is blah, 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 or whatever, you know, you might want to talk to Chief Reed
I've
about
been
this.
thinking more in terms of Ken, but yeah, that I think could be something that could be helpful. I'm just, you know, I go out there and I see some things and
Oh, it's cringy.
you know, and again, it's June, July, August, a little of September. The rest of the year isn't really bad at all. There's, you know, you get one or two people who are jerks, but, you know, you just have people who don't know, or their style and attitude is, you know, go as hard as you can all the time. So, again, thank you guys. Have a great meeting today and easy.
Thank you. Elise Horning, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to add real quick that I almost smashed into a group of riders. You know, those guys, they're racing around, and especially in Montclair, they were all on the wrong side of the road heading towards me. So I think it behooves all of us in our own neighborhoods, and we do this in Montclair, not only to police those guys, but to police the construction workers, the construction vehicles that are going way too fast down Simpson Road. And so we stop them and we wave them on and go, no, you're not doing that. And if we see them repeatedly coming to the neighborhood and doing that, then our police chief is going to get a call. So, I mean, I know not every neighborhood is like ours, because we're kind of enclosed a little bit, but we get all that traffic, especially the weddings and all that went on last weekend. That was zooming down our block, missing the salt sign, and then speedily turning around. We got a lot of kids. So I think it's all of us. I think we all have to police them. Signs, I don't know. I see people walking side by side, walking 5 across. So I think it's just kind of a nice little, no, that's not what you need to be doing. You got to be careful, because he's right. Someone is going to get killed. Somebody is going to get hurt. But again, it's got to be something that we all do together, I think. It's not always on town people and the police chief and all of them to be doing this. So that's my 2 cents. Just wanted to let you know. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else for the public comment period? Okay. Thank you both. Excuse me. All right. The next item on the agenda is the intermunicipal agreement for the the establishment of the Office of Regional Community Preservation Fund Council and the Peconic Bay Regional Advisory Committee. This is the CPF legislation change that creates a committee to hear questions that the different towns will have. Just this morning, we had hopefully what was our final meeting on drafting this IMA. So just at 1 o'clock, Scott Wilson, who is the attorney for CPF in East Hampton, he was leading the charge on the drafting. So he's just circulated all the rest of the changes. So I don't have anything for you today. I was hoping last week's meeting was the final meeting, but We had all 5 towns on today and agreed on all of the particulars. So I want to send this back over to Steve Leventhal, because I've been taking point for the town of Shelter Island. Steve has read through prior draft and given us comments, which all got incorporated. So I just want him to take a look at this final one. All of the towns are doing the same with their supervisors and town attorneys. So by the end of the week, we should have this finalized, and then it can be circulated to all of you for review. We would need to adopt it at the July 21st meeting so that we can then proceed to get this committee established.
And this effort lives inside of capital planning and grants,
No, CPF.
CPF?
It doesn't live inside of CPF, it's separate. It's the 5 East End towns plus 6 appointed representatives from the state. Well, one is actually the designated mayor candidate who represents all of the mayors for the East End towns, for the villages, and then 5 appointees from the state.
It's an advisory group from the 5 East End towns. You know, they had an advisory group. So it's a great place for the CPF towns to come to get opinions on different things, okay? And they have an independent lawyer, so it's a good thing.
Yeah, we've got a candidate to appoint, but we need to get this the IMA finalized. Then we will have a contract with the lawyer that gets hired. There's cost sharing that you'll see based upon CPF revenues. We just worked that finally out today. So
Each town will have an appointee? or
yes,
candidate?
yes, it's the supervisor or their designee. So for the moment, it's been me because unlike other towns where they have had sometimes their CPF department chair there, since we only have volunteers for ours, I've kept it with me, but in future times, the CPF chair will probably be able to attend, especially when discussing the particular questions that come before this committee.
Okay.
The legal counsel for the advisory committee, where is that? How is that determined or where, how?
There is a candidate, she worked with Fred Thiel on the fire committee, when it was in its different incarnation. And she is the leading candidate for the committee to appoint. So she has the knowledge and background. So it would be this committee of 11 that, well, actually it's the five Eastern towns, because we're the ones paying for it, who will actually be the ones to appoint or have the authority to appoint. So more on that next week. So hopefully by Thursday, all the towns will have signed off on it, and then I will give this to Christina so she can distribute to all of you as well as post on the website. At that point in time, review it. We're not looking for all 5 town boards across the East End to start making edits to this document, but just to understand the direction, since we've been hashing out in numerous meetings what went into this, hopefully. But I mean, if you find something glaring, of course, that would get considered. Next item on the agenda is the walking floor trailer discussion. And I think this got put on because we have not concluded on it. So I don't know if, Ken, if you want to just do a recap on this, or if it's just asking the question.
Yeah, I added it to the agenda because you were away, and Ken was asking if we were going to have the resolution to approve the walking floor trailer, and my response was, I don't know, because I wasn't sure what the resolution of the board was at the time. I didn't remember if we came to a conclusion, yes or no. So I wanted to bring it back to the table so that we can get a yes or no answer for him, so he can either go out to bid or not. That was kind of the.
And yes, and we talked about this, and part of the conversation was, I went down and took a quick look at it and took a tour of everything with Ken. It's an old piece of equipment that needs replacement without question, but I also want to look at it. Budget is coming up, 2 months away, 3 months away. And I wanted to look at it with the whole budget. But I certainly am not objecting in any way to the replacement of this equipment. And the other thing we wanted to do was to, well, talk about it.
With respect to the whole budget, this would be coming out of,
Yeah, it's a special
Yeah.
fund and the money's been set aside.
I know, I'm
but
just
still,
making sure.
You gotta get the whole picture, no matter what the pocket is that you stick your hand in. That's just my feeling, but, anyone else?
I just, if, Ken, you want to speak to the delay? One of the things, because it is coming out of Equipment Reserve Fund, it is subject to a permissive referendum. So we have to first approve the expenditure, but then we have to wait 30 days to see whether or not the public sends in a petition in order for us to put this on a ballot.
Well, the other,
So there is some built-in delay. So that's why I was wondering if Ken wanted to speak to
well, before,
impacts of that.
is there a way that they can go out the bid without that permissive referendum? So we can, get all the other variables in place, such as timeline, real actual cost? Or do we have to wait for this referendum first before?
Can I answer all those things?
Yeah,
So, yeah, and
Come on.
probably Steve needs to weigh in as well, because there's legal implications. Yes.
So I think, we have the real actual costs. We have the timeline, and we have the money. So I think it's really a matter of,
With respect to cost, is it off of state contract or is it
it's
something?
gonna go out to bid, but I have the specs on the trailer, on everything. It's gonna be, it's gonna come in at $142,000 roughly. That's, I got the one bid that I got, is from, a company that makes the aluminum trailer, the one that we described that we need, exactly what we have here now. The only thing that wasn't factored in, which was the tarpaulin that goes over the whole top of everything, we have to put that system in place, and that's about another $12,000. So the original estimate was $130,500. This is it'd be like $142 now. Obviously, we go out to bid and we see who has what, but that gives us and we did the projection with the reserve fund, factoring in also, if there was an interest rate, that we put to it, and, we planned it out across the 4 years at roughly 37,000. Yeah, right, 320. So, that's about as close to what we're gonna get as possible, and so, it's gonna take 4 months to get it built, 3 to 4 months to build it. 30 days for the referendum. That is a question for Stephen. I don't know if Stephen, if we're not going to have the money, I don't know if it makes sense to go out to bid and have guys bidding on something that are going to come back to us and then say, okay, well, I could say, well, now we're not doing it, I guess. But that we also have to pay for advertising because we put it in papers, we put it online media, to do this thing. So those are the.
So if I may, believe it or not, a local municipality is prohibited from conducting a referendum except on particular matters that the law authorizes. The reason for that is we start out with the principle that it's representative government, that the voters have delegated to you the responsibility for running government. But the law specifies certain types of matters. And there are two categories of referenda: mandatory and permissive. Mandatory referenda are particular items that require a referendum, and permissive are those that only provide for a referenda if a sufficient number of members of the public request it, which is done in the form of a petition. And my recollection from the time that I handled a permissive referendum on behalf of another municipality, my recollection is that the municipality takes the action first approves the matter. The town board would vote and adopt whatever the particular matter is. And then it will not be, and then give the public an opportunity to petition for a referenda. And there's a time period within which the public must do that. If the public does not, if there are not a sufficient number of signatures, then the matter becomes effective. If there are, it becomes effective only in the event that the referenda approves it. That's my recollection. Of course, I'll need to confirm all of that, but that's my recollection.
Do you know where the bid process would fall in that timeline?
Well, I think, again, I'll have to confirm this, but my feeling about that is that that's a matter of practicality for the town board to determine, or the appropriate town department or agency. I'm not sure there's any problem in getting a head start on it. I will say, having been on the, having submitted RFP, responses to RFPs on my own behalf for legal services, it's a big job to put together the packet that a municipality requires in an actually mine were RFQs, but in an RFP or an RFQ. So you can do it, but be mindful of the fact that you're asking the applicants to undertake to spend some time and resources in responding. That's my belief. And of course, if there's any, I can, if the board wishes to proceed, or if the town wishes to proceed, I'm not sure if this is a board action or an action by Ken's department. If the town wishes to proceed, I certainly will look further and get reliable answers.
Thank you.
I mean, if it's a matter of you've approved it and we're waiting for the referendum to go, the 30-day period, as long as it's been approved for the expenditure, I don't mind starting to prepare the RFP to go out to bid for it, but I don't want to do that preemptively without.
Christina, can I get this screen share?
I'm sorry?
I was asking Christina if I could share my screen.
And when you go out for buying equipment that's in your budget, you bought a truck, okay, of the same value, would you do the same thing?
Yes.
Why for a referendum?
No, not for a referendum. This is because this is a specific fund. This comes out of, that's a budget line item that comes out, and I go out to bid, but I wouldn't go out the referendum. It's because it comes out of this equipment reserve fund. If I'm not correct, right, Amber?
That's correct. Yes. Just to close finish the conversation, this is a spreadsheet that was designed by Jake Hard years ago, that we have been updating since, that shows what happens with the equipment reserve fund. So when we started 2025, we had $111,814, and we budgeted last year $110,000 operating budget line item that puts money into this fund, $110,000. We also got the excavator grant reimbursement of $78,000. We are finishing up the loader, which we purchased back in 2022. We bought that and paid it out over 4 installments, which is also part of the permissive referendum, because when we're paying something over time, we also have to wrap that up into the expenditure from the capital reserve fund, as well as the fact that we're paying over time. The same
Well,
with,
that's because it's interest expense.
correct. And also it's multi-year out of the equipment reserve fund. We did the same thing with the hook lift truck in 2023. So we have those monies coming out automatically, and we need to finish those expenditures over in 2025 as well as 2026 for the hook lift truck. So if we were to take on the walking floor trailer, that $37,320 would come out of this year. We're probably going to get about $500 worth of interest, because we moved where these funds are parked from Chase savings account to the class accounts. So we get a little bit more interest. So with this expenditure, we would end the year with $154,000 in the account. So the only consideration, like from a budget perspective, is when we're starting to look at the 2026 budget, are we going to make that same deposit of $110,000? And so when we design the spreadsheet, we periodically bump it up for inflation purposes. It started at 90,000 years ago, and then we've increased it a little bit here and there over the years. So if we were to not say we're going to put in that same $110,000 into this reserve account, then we can't do this. Right now, I'm starting to work on the budget. We'll be sending out, when Shelby is back from vacation and we close June, we will send out to the department heads their schedules so that they can start to, spend some time pulling together their budgets before I start having meetings with them. My intention at the moment is to keep that $110,000 in because it would be a zero budget increase. We budgeted $110,000 last year. We budget $110,000 this year. It's flat. We're not increasing the budget at all. So only if the rest of the town board, and when I get to pulling together all the department's information, then I would consider what I want to do. But right now, my intention is to keep that flat, just because I think we'd be going backwards on our capital planning for highway equipment by not continuing on with the program that we've instituted. If we start to decrease that or take it out entirely, then we jeopardize being able to replace equipment and kind of flatlining the impact of purchases from a year-to-year basis so that we have spikes in budget years where the walking floor trailer dies and we actually have to go out and do something and suddenly we have a budget spike. So
That would
That's my
be my intention as well, and that was what I was gonna propose for this year anyway, when we got to budget season. The last two things from me that just so you know, the walking floor trailer, was something that's been on the horizon for a long time. And as a matter of fact, before Brian left office, he impressed upon me the fact that if I was going to be making a purchase out of that reserve fund, that I should prioritize the walking floor trailer as the number one thing at the moment. So, and that was coming from someone who also operated it for many years before he was sitting in my position. Like I said, from my standpoint, I feel like this has been part of the planning cycle that we've had, that Jay started long ago. It's budgeted for this year, and the big one for me is it's needed. It's something we use a tremendous amount of, and it saves the town a lot of money in the long run by us not having to pay a hauler to take that stuff out of here. So.
I gave my thoughts, which are like.
You stand by what you said,
It
and I
is-
haven't swayed you.
I don't think the need for this thing is really the question here. It's the timing and the process of how we manage the town's finances. And we're talking about maybe 4 months, adding 4 months to the process. Just to get things right and in line.
I mean, I don't know, I'm just wrestling with, looking down the road, not having the budget in front of me here to really digest. This is 110,000 that we put in, but not knowing the repercussions of that and the impacts that will have in conjunction with buying the truck, which, you need-based.
Well, I think the impact is zero. I mean, it's a zero budget. If we went through with the 110 next year, it's a zero increase. It's the same thing. I mean, I think not funding it would be very short-sighted in the long run, because these things are not getting, these pieces of equipment are not getting any cheaper.
Yeah.
And they are large and they are expensive ticket items. And if you have to do a one-off to pay for them, you're going to be in far worse shape doing that than you are planning this the way Jay planned it in this sort of, for lack of for a simplistic term of it, like this leapfrog mode of how things come off and certain things come on. And we keep the process moving where it remains an affordable way for the town and the taxpayer to fund these things.
In my mind, that's not the question. Like I said, I certainly have no objection to replacing this piece of equipment. I just need to see it in the context of the whole budget. And
But it's in the context of the whole budget. I don't understand what I'm saying. It's sitting in the
what
budget.
about the reset? No, this is a separate fund, and well, maybe the addition to this is gonna go up. But, I mean, I guess the risk here is, will it last an extra 4 months?
I don't know. I don't have a crystal
Well,
ball.
nobody- yeah,
You
nobody can
saw how
guess.
bad a shape it's in. I mean,
I agree with you.
yeah.
But
And it's
also,
gonna cost us a lot of money when it goes down. And then we have to pay for somebody to truck it off. And it's gonna cost probably a lot more than the $37,000 that we're gonna spend in 1 year on a financing plan. But
can we do the referendum? I mean, how long are they good for? I mean, I'm sure they're good for the amount of time we're talking about till we get the budget done.
It's a 30-day, they have a 30-day window
Yeah,
to file petitions, and if they don't do it in 30 days, then it's
and it
approved.
passes, and then we have an approval in our pocket.
That's a Steve question, because if we approve it to go forward and then 30-day permissive referendum period passes, have we already approved it?
Right.
Right. There is one step that I forgot to mention previously. It occurred to me. After you approve the matter, then you have to publish to put the public on notice of what you've done and their right to petition for a referendum. So that's an intervening step. But yeah, my recollection is that if no request is made for a referendum, it becomes whatever action you've taken becomes effective.
We might.
But are we then bound to take that action, or can we
Well,
change our mind?
you've already taken it. So,
Yeah.
I mean, you can, what the board can do, of course, it can undo, but the action will have been taken.
When I look at this request, it's part of a longer, long-term, planning effort to make sure that we're responsibly replacing our equipment, so there's no, major tax burden in any one year. I think that this plan has worked very well for us so far, and I think that we should continue to implement it as it's designed, because it's well thought out, it's good future planning, and I don't have a problem following the plan and, purchasing this piece of equipment that's in need of repair and replacement based on the fact that we've already been planning for it for the last few years. I think it makes sense.
It's the only part of capital planning that we've actually done well.
It's done very well. It is
The
done
equipment
very
reserve
well.
is the only one, because we've already stripped away in last year's budget any capital planning, capital expenditures that were supposed to happen, that we were trying to build up to have this kind of a plan in place. But we stripped it out of last year's budget. And so this year, we're starting from zero.
And this is kind of the benchmark that we should strive for with our other capital planning aspects. Like, we should have this kind of plan for the capital planning and grants. We should have it for, buildings maintenance. We should have it for some of our different departments that are gonna have these expenses down the line. It's a good model. So I'm in favor of following the plan that we've had that's been working for us for so long and, going through with the purchase.
Gordon, you get to be the deciding.
I think it's probably, it is needed. We're going to be, this piece of equipment is going to be held on to as this backup piece of equipment. And I personally would, this is my first budget season. So I would really prefer to see what the budget looks like, and if it means a little delay of 4 months, I would prefer to see the budget, what the proposal is.
Your answer.
Yeah.
Before you leave, ending that topic, I I saw that we now have cameras installed down at Wade's Beach.
Yeah.
So I kind of wanted to put it out there because we have a need for cameras down at Wade's Beach. So if you could speak to what's transpired.
Yeah, so we've had, over the last couple of years, really, last couple of summers, we've had some vandalism down at Waits Beach, you know, a couple of broken windows, you know, sort of messing with the outdoor shower, you know, little things. We had somebody took some toilet paper recently, a roll of toilet paper, and tried to light it on fire inside one of the urinals in the bathroom, and, you know, sprayed beer all over the inside of the bathroom, that kind of stuff. So anyway, so yes, we've installed cameras down there now, so we can at least have something that we can record and see and give to the police department. You know, because it's mostly comes on, you know, the heels of one of the cleaning crew going down there to clean something up and noticing this stuff. So, you know, they let us know, but by then, you know, there's been some graffiti too, you know, like painted on the walls, that kind of stuff. So, and we just redid those bathrooms, you know, a few years back and really made them nice, and so we don't want to see them getting trashed. So we have cameras that have a pretty good view of all sites down there for us. So, and it's and Kevin can access it right away for us if we, you know, if I get a call, I can call Kevin and say, can you go check the camera, the recording, and he'll have the information. So,
Chief Reed, I see you've turned your video on.
Yeah, Ken, if you don't mind, I'd like to publicly post that properly, letting people know that there's video surveillance down there. I think it's the right thing by the public, and it informs them and can be a deterrent.
definitely. I think I even have signs in stock to do that.
That was my whole reason for bringing up at the work session is since they are now in place, it is a deterrent. Thank you.
Yeah.
So we're here. Right. Moving right along, we have some waterways applications. We reposted the agenda to take off those applications that were not closed last night. So the first one on the list is XV for 15 Property LLC, the Totona stock application.
I'm gonna,
Yes, I was going to say, you recused yourself yesterday. Right. So I think that, yeah, the only public comment last night was just the discussion based upon Matt Williamson's letter. How do you feel about approving this?
I looked at what Matt put together again this morning, okay? And when I looked at that code 53-8-3, it certainly changes the picture a little bit in my mind.
Now, is this old code section or new code section?
Good question. I'm thinking it is 7-1, I don't know what's listed on the, what's on, what
It's
is,
the new code. If you've got it online, it's the new code.
new code, okay.
So this is off the old code. So let's see if we can find the old code.
What is it, the reduction in nonconformity?
No, it says, it just, I mean, it basically is saying a private dock may not extend in total lineal footage of all fixed portions of the dock, walkways, ramps, floats, distant tie-off pilings, or dolphins more than 1.5 times the specified maximum allowable distance. a dock as measured from the shoreline.
Amber, if you're listening, can you pull the paper code book? Hopefully that hasn't been updated yet, so we can pull the previous code for us. Yeah,
Thank
and I'm
you.
trying to think if I still have all that folder of dock code.
This was a non-conforming dock,
Right.
237 feet. I mean, and typically, not typically, but the WMAC always asks for a reduction in the non-conformity when the dock is being modified. I don't know why the float is to the side. I guess that's where Matt was confused, possibly, that he assumed maybe that the float is going to be added to the dock itself
Yeah, I mean,
on the end. I don't know. I was hoping Jack would be here, actually, just to clarify.
But
Why didn't they show a
Close.
demo? What's that?
But we closed the public hearing last night, so
Yeah,
we wouldn't,
no, I know.
Jack wouldn't be able to
Yeah.
catch us.
I mean, it makes sense the way they have it done with the float to the side so that, you can walk down, it's parallel to the dock. We're not making the dock longer. They're just making it safer to access the boats. So, I mean, I think that the design work makes sense. It doesn't extend the length of the dock at all, which is good. Because you don't want to extend the nonconformity.
So you're looking at it as the picture denotes, that the dock remains and this float is
To the side,
to the side.
yes.
So that increases the nonconformity. That's an increase in the dock itself.
It's not increasing the length and it's only temporary. It's a float, so it comes out in the off season.
It's an increase in the dock. Substantially.
But it had platforms on both sides to begin with and they're taking those off. Because the dock had platform on either side originally, so they're gonna remove those two platforms, and replace the platforms with just the floating dock for safer access. And they're also taking out half the pilings. So it's a reduction in pilings.
All right, so the old code, so if this was 53.8C3, the old code, we have 53.11, which is design and construction of private commercial docks. But then it also has 53.12, existing docks. So following our existing docks, the following are exempt from the standards set forth in 53.11. So any dock in existence prior to the adoption of this chapter that is maintained in kind or in place, any alterations, modifications, or repair to a pre-existing non-conforming dock, which after review is determined by the town board to significantly lessen the pre-existing non-conformity, or any repairs of dock deteriorating that were 30% or more. So it seems like we would be picking up 53.12B. So does it significantly lessen the pre-existing non-conforming? Then it's exempt from the prior 100-foot and all of the.
Is it under old code?
This
I
is
think
old
this
code.
is old code. I think this application was old code.
Amber, are you logged it in?
They got approval in November 2024. So the application maybe wasn't submitted.
Can I just knock on the door?
Yeah, I was gonna say she might be with. Since it's July 1st, we're getting a lot of beach stickers today with the new seasonal rentals. So if we're looking at whether or not it's lessening, we've got a removal of 192 square feet of the seaward end of the stationary dock.
If anything, this is an increase.
I was going to say, so we've got 4 by 6. Which is what
She said new code.
new code, okay.
So what section is it that we're looking at?
53.8.
It's three, C3.
So now
I have to think that
53,
through.
so 53.9 existing docks also has the exemption from 53.8. Any dock in existence prior to the adoption of this chapter that is maintained, repaired, or replaced in kind or in place. Any alteration or modification to a pre-existing non-conforming dock, which after review is determined by the town board to materially lessen the pre-existing non-conformity. So actually, the code section is the same.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's not actually the 53C whatever that applies, because this is an existing dock. So it's the 53.9 that applies.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Okay.
And this is just materially lessens the pre-existing nonconformity. So the removal of some of the piles does reduce the nonconformity.
Yeah, I was going to say, so we've removed 16 piles and 192 square feet, but then we're adding. Right. Looking. which
So
one
we're
was-
adding 260.
Oh, this is the revised. Yes, adding 260, but taking
But
away.
236 of that is seasonal. So it's only for 4 or 5 months out of the year. Because that's the float and the ramp.
What was removed,
Was fixed. 192 square feet.
so we're adding 260 square feet of seasonal, removing 192 square feet of year-round.
Well, I mean, I guess technically it would be, we're adding 236 square feet of seasonal, because 24 is going to be a fixed platform.
Oh.
24 square feet is a fixed platform that the ramp would attach to, then go to the float. So this platform here is fixed. And then that's the ramp and that's the float. Those two are seasonal.
So 4 by 6, but
The 4 by 6 platform
is
would be
year-round.
year-round. So it's 236 square feet, that's temporary seasonal. So it would be 24 square feet.
I don't know what that means, temporary, seasonal. Dock is a dock.
Yeah,
But
well,
the float
I
is
think a
not
dock,
permanent.
isn't a dock really seasonal anyhow to begin with?
Yeah, I mean, who goes?
Who goes in the wintertime?
No, but it's.
I mean, seasonals become, I mean, I think Jack put that out there, seasonal, you know, as a,
But it's a permanent structure versus a temporary structure. So the dock itself is a
but there's
permanent,
there's
permanent
pilings.
structure, but the float, the 260 square feet of float is temporary and it comes out, so it's not there year round. That's a difference.
So it's not there in the wintertime, but what is,
But marine life,
I don't know the significance of that
well,
really.
marine life is impacted by the year-round.
More so than it
Yeah,
is when
I'm
it's
just,
seasonal.
like, that to me, that's the difference between seasonal.
I don't know, did the code differentiate a temporary dock or a seasonal dock? Do they spell out the difference of what that definition is?
Not seeing that, but,
I didn't,
I mean, some of it's just.
I mean, yeah, so the question, yeah,
Common
the
sense.
question is whether or not this is a decrease in nonconformity.
What is the wording in the code? It's not substantial, but what is it called?
Materially
Material.
less than
Materially.
the pre-existing nonconforming.
I think the removal of half the pilings is a material lessening of nonconformity, because you're taking those out, those are gone. So then it's just a matter of whether or not the temporary or seasonal aspect of the float, which will come out of the water and go back in the water, is a lessening of the dock.
I just want to mention that in my view, the term material is less than substantial, because all you need to be material is not immaterial.
Right.
So it's just above it's a fairly low threshold to be material.
Right. So the removal of 8 pilings would be a material reduction in the dock.
Do we have something that shows where those pilings are that are going?
You know, to countermand that argument, Meg, they're installing the tie-off piles for the pilings for the floating dock. And also they're adding 4 tie-off pilings and 6 fender piles.
Yeah, you said that.
So a total of, you know, they're adding,
There's going to be 8, right?
well, they're adding 12.
1, 2,
And they're
3,
reducing
4, 5, 6, 7, 8. He said they're taking out 16 and putting 8 back. So there's 2 for the platform, 1, 2 for the floating dock, 2 tie-offs to this, what is that, west, and 2 tie-offs to the east. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
You've got the existing
Yeah, the
configuration.
existing,
What page is that?
here's the existing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So they're reducing the pilings by half.
If anything, you want my phone number to call me back? Town hall is.
I think nobody's doing great for the float. No, it looks like it's the,
It looks like we're removing 16, but then adding,
Putting 8 back.
no, 12. Unless it changed from this original application.
It did. This was the modified application because the WMAC wanted this orientation. Because last night Jack confirmed 8 pilings were going back in.
I didn't write that down. So this dock is 237 feet long. And this floating dock is 40 feet, the
Mhm.
end. I'm just looking at the depths on the site plan. Site plan demo has the depth of the,
Right.
on the,
Yeah, it has it so the float
Alright, so-
starts at 2.5
okay, so they're in
feet.
2.5
so they're in the
feet,
right
okay.
Depth of water. Like they can't really pull it back too far because then they're not in enough water.
Right. Yeah, no, I wasn't thinking of pulling it back. I was just wondering if we shortened it. Would that be a compromise? If we shortened the floating dock? Right. And that would lessen the nonconformity further.
So, to that, even 92 square feet, that's the. Five foot. We make it 38 feet long, it's the same amount as what they've taken off, so if we were to do, um,
I'll say again, if you want, it should go back to the WMAC to review, so that they fully understand dock. I don't think they fully understood the dock at the time. So last one taking up the meeting, it was a long meeting. I don't think it's the worst thing to have it go back.
In order to send it back to WMAC, would we have to then reopen the public hearing?
yeah.
I don't think he heard you, Stephen.
You have to step away for a moment?
But yeah, I think we would have to reopen the public hearing. mean, it's our call in the end, no matter what.
Mhm.
Even if the WMAC looks at it again and it comes back to us, we still have to make the decision. Right. You know, this was based on the recommendations given to the applicant by the WMAC. Let's see.
Just, I'm seeing,
Stephen's here and that.
yeah, to wait for him to give us, but because I'm seeing that, it's gonna be 2-2. Oh, there we go.
I mean, if we lengthen,
Steve, the question was if we decide to, since we're at an impasse between the four of us, what would it take to reopen the public hearing and resend this back to WMAC?
It would take a vote, but you'd have to publish again because you can adjourn a hearing to a date certain. But if there's no date certain when the people who responded to the original publication are present, you have to republish.
Okay. So we could do a special, we'll have to talk with Amber just to double check timing, but maybe we could do a special on July 8th.
can we try to come up with a solution that the board's okay with? Like, if we reduce the float to 30 feet, then it would be 186 feet and they're removing 192 square feet. So then that is it's a reduction in the nonconformity. Before we,
Or you could leave the floating dock the same, but reduce the main dock.
right, but then they're gonna lose depth.
I know, but
They're not gonna
it
be the
doesn't,
right depth.
it doesn't seem that significant though.
But so the floating dock starts at 2.5 foot depth and then goes to 2.7. So if you reduce the length of the dock and you pull the float back, they're not gonna have enough depth. It depends on how much dock you take off, but you're gonna lose depth.
Yeah.
I just want to state with their timing, they'll have to, since it's new code, they have to publish 30 days, not just the
Right.
5 days minimum. They have to send the notices again to all the surrounding properties and notice.
Right.
So that's the timeline with the republishing.
Yeah, because, Gordon, if you look at the site plan, sheet 6 of 9,
I'm taking the medium average here was 2.6. If it moves it up a little bit more, okay,
can you bring it up for screen here, just so the public can see as well?
it would bring it into 2.5. I'm looking at the middle of the dock.
Right. Yeah, there's the 2.5 line. It tells you right where the
Yes,
depth,
right there.
yeah.
You want to
So,
look at the same thing?
I think so, yeah. Yeah, this right here is 2.5 feet of water. I mean, the other option would be shorten the
Yeah,
dock
page 6.
10 feet and shorten the
Next
float
page.
10 feet, bring everything back.
Yep.
And
Can zoom
then
in on that.
you could still keep the float starting in the right depth to
Right.
ground, and then you're just cutting 10 feet off the end of each.
But do we have 10 feet there?
Well, it's a 40-foot float, so if you're scaling it, well, it's a 38-foot float, is what it's showing,
38 feet.
38.4. So, let's see. So then it's actually 190.
Can you just go down the bottom of the page? Because 38.4, that's not what I'm looking at. What's the date on that? 6/3, that does say 6/20. 24, 6/3, okay, all right. I'm not looking at the most recent.
So
All right, so you want to pull it back 10
so if it's
feet.
38.4, hold on, let's see.
So you're saying remove 10 feet at the end of the dock and then reduce the float
We'd have,
10 feet.
yeah, I was gonna say we'd have to cut off 10 feet of the
Yeah.
float as well then.
It would really be no hardship in terms of the depth.
Yeah, well, that would work.
Make it a 28-foot float instead of a 38-foot float. How big is their boat? Does anybody know?
That's what I was just.
Or you can keep it at 35 feet.
The piers on the dock, it's not like you have any pilings there, so I mean, it's not uncommon for a boat to be a little larger even than, it can handle a 36-foot, 38-foot boat.
Yeah, and I guess given the depths there, you can't draw that much,
Right.
even at the end of the dock.
It would be a good compromise.
Saying 10 feet off the dock and 10 feet off the float. Yeah.
So. What's the date on this one? Because I have one that says a 40-foot float, and then there's the one that you're showing is the 38.
Yeah, that one's dated June 3rd, 2025, whereas the one that I'm
Okay,
looking at
yeah.
is June 24th, 2024.
Yeah.
My brain was reading
So
it.
they
as-
did the 38-foot to get it closer to the 190, so what they took off originally was 192. 38-foot float would make it 190 is what they're putting back in float. So that's 2 feet less than
Mhm.
what they took off.
I'd almost say let's take off 8 feet,
Yeah, so it's an even
So it's an-
30-foot
yeah.
float.
30 foot.
I
How
was thinking that too.
do you feel about that?
And cut back the dock on the 10 feet?
Cut the dock and
Eight.
the dock and the float by
Right.
8 feet 4 inches. So it's a 30.
Just
Same
so
thing.
it's-
Same
yeah,
here.
Yeah.
So we go from the
So-
original 40 to 30.
I think that's a good compromise, and we're not creating any kind of precedent here at all. And
So 30-foot float and then take 8 feet 4 inches off the dock to match the length of the float. Like, so the whole
Yes,
thing.
so everything gets chopped, 8 feet 4 inches. I'm comfortable with that. Steve, have you got that for resolution? You write those or does Amber write those?
Well, usually what happens is Amber sends me a few points to incorporate in the decision.
All right, perfect. All right.
You could probably just round it to 8 feet. Just take 8 feet off of each. I don't think the porches is gonna do that. I don't think that's like. It'd be cleaner if you did.
But then it was a 30-foot even float.
I think
It's
the
probably the
4
same
inches is
thing.
gonna be so negligible anyway.
Well, I think it's gonna be a 30-foot float anyways.
Yeah.
Because I don't think,
Actually, I said Amber sends it to me. I want to give credit where credit is due. Meg often sends me notes from the meeting that are very helpful.
I'll put together some notes from this one. All right. Reduce the dock. So is everybody okay with that compromise?
Yes,
Yes.
Okay, all right. We can bring Ben back. Put that together.
Well, they just sell the town.
you sold the town or you sold it while you were out of the room?
Yeah.
Even on camera, we couldn't do anything in the dark. Oh, sorry. This was when we need old code.
They'll probably need it for something.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Okay,
The Fagan dock.
I'm torn about this one. It's because it's a sensitive area, but at the same time, because it's a sensitive area, I'd rather have them be elevated above the wetlands, so they're avoiding dragging kayaks and stuff through the wetlands to get to the water. So trying to outweigh.
I couldn't agree more, but also in addition to that, if it's really limited.
Non-motorized.
To non-motorized.
Yeah.
That's
That
why I'm
makes me
saying.
really happy.
Yeah, if it's
Right.
not motorized, I'm happier having the dock there so that they're not destroying the plant life by dragging equipment through it to get to the water. So if it was motorized, I might have a different take on it, but
Yeah.
I think that if it's just a kayak like, dock,
This is a 90-foot dock from mean high water to the end of the dock. 90 feet
it's long.
in Dickerson
It
Creek.
feels long.
In Dickerson Creek. I don't think there's another dock near that. There may be two other docks in there besides
They're
these
really old and
that's a short one though.
short.
Yeah,
and
It's
little.
a short, I mean, if somebody has an 18-foot
If
boat.
it's only a kayak, we don't have a definition of kayak, but is there, do you need to go that far just for kayaks? I guess that's a question.
I mean, I was gonna ask, what is a kayak dock? Where does it say in our chapter? Where's the section that refers to kayak docks? I mean, what,
The pertinent issue is motorized, yeah. I'm not sure a kayak dock, that being defined or not matters, but what
I know.
matters is that we can't pull up a motorboat to it and turn everything up.
I don't know that you can even get a motorboat in there.
High tide, you might be able to.
Yes,
That's it.
only high tide. It gets really
Yeah, I
shallow
was
there.
gonna say.
I mean,
yeah,
even
it's a
the
little-
crab traps are exposed at low tide.
Oh,
They're just
100%.
sinking in the mud.
I mean, the idea is to get kayak in the water, right? I- 90 feet is,
Christina, could you bring up Google Maps just so we can get a visual on that area?
Yeah, just hook the GIS.
Actually,
90 feet is a long way.
Yeah.
it's 100 and, it's actually 120 feet overall. I mean, you know,
it goes over the
Yeah.
wetlands, yeah. But from mean high water, it's 90 feet, to the end of the dock.
Mhm.
So it's, I do. All right. If you, Christina, can I share? Oh, you've got it too. Yeah. I have just the GIS version up, whichever one is, yours might be clearer. Yeah, yours is better for this.
I mean, that's a little dock next door to the,
yes.
I mean, that's kind of like, that gets you to the water.
Christina, can you do a measurement from like mean high water out 90 feet so we can get a reference point?
I don't know where the mean high water is.
I figured it's, let's see, it shows it,
You can tell exactly
Right. Or if you go from the edge of lawn,
Dock on the left with the two boats on it?
Yeah, I was gonna
What's that?
say, start, yeah,
What is that?
It's a dock,
Well, the dog.
there's a wood dock.
little dock there.
Pretty much start.
That's the dock next
if you
to
go
it.
from the edge of the lawn, out to the end, it's 120 feet. So if you go,
Can you point the TV?
so like edge of the lawn would be like here,
Yes, that's it.
and then come out.
Yeah, I was gonna say about the same as,
120 is the full length of the dock. But is that the right property?
yes.
Okay, oh yeah, one, okay.
Whoa. Hello, that's 90 feet?
No, we're not there yet.
That's the full,
That's 110 feet?
Hundred.
Yeah, pull it up, yeah, pull it out another 10. Because it's, yeah, we've got 120 overall length.
right.
120?
Yeah, it says from the edge of the lawn to the end of the dock is 120 feet.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's far.
Further in,
If you just zoom out a little bit, I just want to see something. Could you just zoom out a little bit? Yeah, that's what I was looking for, okay.
yeah, I think for a kayak launch, it doesn't need to be, I mean, we've got some low,
Where's the town dock? It's below, it's underneath, yeah.
Right here.
We scroll up just a smidge, Christine, yeah, there we go. That's what we.
And that's just, the edge of dredging is really where the police boat,
Yeah, no, that's where it's from.
So-
At low tide, see all the whitish,
mm-hmm,
that is exposed at
all the
low
way out,
tide.
yeah. For most of that, and then it's only like half a foot deep at low tide.
Yeah,
And some of it's really just,
you can't get a boat put in there.
yeah, this one too, maybe just chopping off like the last 36 feet, and moving the kayak launch back.
then you're in like, what, 8 inches of water?
Well, I was just, that's what I'm looking for, like
That doesn't make
there's,
sense.
yeah, at the end of the 50-foot ramp, you're at foot and a half, a foot and a quarter, 1.4.
Right.
If you take off the 30, it's at 1.6?
Yeah.
Yeah, 1.4, 1.6.
Just get a little sketchy in
And
there.
that's high tide, all right.
No, that's low,
Oh, low tide,
Low tide.
okay.
yeah. Maybe not quite 36 feet off then.
Where are you at 30? If you take 30 feet off.
You can hit the tail end of 36 inch. Right?
These patterns are even like skinny.
Costello's gonna do this.
I mean, here's this. Do you have
The
this
only other
too?
thing to consider, especially with this one, is the applicant probably will have to go back to the DEC. So we'll have to make these subject to DEC, especially this one, because we're pushing the activity back into the wetlands, I think.
Quite a bit of activity, I think, now in the wetlands, really.
The Army Corps already shortened the dock from 100 feet to 90 feet. They raised it to be a 4-foot elevation above the wetlands. And there was a bench that was removed. So they've already shortened it a little bit, but I don't know if it's possible to 'Cause otherwise you're gonna have things sitting in the mud. You don't want anything sitting in the mud. So it says the first 28 feet is marsh area. And so for that 28 feet, it has to be a 4-foot elevation above the marsh. And then,
You can be high water.
yeah. So then at some point, you have to be able to get from that 4-foot elevation down to the water. Then you get your ramp and some kind of float. I mean, mean low water is no.
Next door goes out to. Here.
Let's see, I'll measure the dock next door. Looks like the dock next door is 50 feet, but it starts, it's kind of sketchy the way it starts.
It doesn't really go anywhere.
No.
Does it even at low tide? It's gotta be in 5 inches of water.
If that, yeah.
No, but I don't
Which way
understand.
the guy next door?
Page 13 of 21.
It's the only other one with the dock there, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
but it's a really old rickety dock too. If you look at it, it's one of the
I know.
original, like locust posty kind
I
of.
mean, in terms of, is Dickerson Creek really a place for a dock? I mean, the comp plan it says protecting roadside views and scenic vistas. I mean, you have Turcom's Rest on the other side of Midway, then you look out over Tuttle Needham property, which is all preserved property. And there's no other docks in the creek there. I just think this is not a visual asset by any means.
Well, and
No,
this
that would
creek
be-
is some of our last true wetlands, like
Yeah.
true marsh area.
Yeah,
Flip side is protecting that marshland.
Mhm. I think the goal is just to be able to put a kayak in the water. It should be just a bridge to get over the marsh. So I don't think it would need to be 90 feet long.
Right.
Yeah.
That's why my initial reaction was cut 36 feet off. I just don't know. That's a little too far.
So cut this off here. You're in so little water
At the 36
at the
feet.
36 feet. You look at the low tide measurements. Like
You
it's,
got 36 feet off where we were at. 54?
No, then, oh, you mean, for-
The depth is 1'6".
But that's at
1.4.
mean height tide.
1.4, right.
Yeah, 1.4. Although, how long are kayaks?
They draw about 3 inches.
Right, but I mean, 9 feet.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
would say 10, 12, depending on.
yeah.
Mhm. So if those pilings are spaced 9 feet apart. 8 inch. 10 feet apart. So it's that would put the house end of the kayak at like 1.1 or 1.2.
Right.
Right.
So 14 inches of water.
You can get in and out on a kayak.
Yeah,
Now, what point are you going to,
I
Amber?
was going to shorten it 36 feet.
36 feet.
So if you take the walk,
54 feet.
essentially, if you cut out right here.
Right, yeah.
If it's,
Approximately.
it's 120 minus 36.
Oh,
Because
so you-
overall, yeah, because you've got the catwalk
Yeah.
portion, then the ramp for the kayak launch.
So it's 84 feet. Is that enough, right? Yeah.
Mhm. Because you've got stairs in the end there.
Frankly, I hate to see another dock go in Dickerson Creek, but I mean, really, it's one of those areas that just elusive.
Ramp is 30 feet. And then they're talking about another 100. So it's not 120, it's 130?
The overall right now is 120.
When you include the stairs.
Yeah, we had the stairs at night.
Yeah, so it's 30 feet of catwalk and then 50 feet of ramp, so 80 plus 7.
There is something nice about having the dock go through the marshland. You're not dragging and doing anything in the marshland.
Yeah.
If people are accessing the water.
Yeah,
Right.
Mhm.
I think the problem is that in order to get from this 4-foot elevation required to go over the wetlands down to a height where you could easily get into the kayak from the dock, so you're not 4 feet above the low water, you have to have the ramp
Yes.
that long in order to, yeah, it's not just a slip and slide where you stand on it, you just down the ramp.
That's when we're getting a float too. You don't want to do that.
Right.
Because the float will have to be blocked.
It'll have to be chopped because otherwise it'll stay in the mud.
Yeah.
You don't want that. I think that's why they shortened it to 90 feet when they could, but at the same time, I don't know that you need a 36-foot long launch for the kayak. You know, you only need the kayak launch to be as wide as the seat. So you're stepping from maybe a 5-foot or 6-foot long platform into a kayak. It's not like all 10 and 12 feet of the kayak have to be up against the float. But it looks like you also want to store the kayaks on the dock instead of like dragging them down the dock.
That's good.
So,
That's a plus.
but we have to figure out if we can keep the storage, extended caps for kayak storage. So can't they still just put those closer?
The funny part about this whole thing is the Steve Dickerson's father, who lived there next to Dickerson Overlook, he was angry. I met him a few times where he could never have a dock. The town refused to let him have a dock, even though there was somebody upstream from him.
Oh. Really? So this was the
I knew that.
night?
This would be the last one, am I correct? Here, that we would ever have to contend with as far as.
Yeah, I don't think there's any other available
Yeah, there's
There's
other
one
houses
right
there.
next to, there's one,
Okay.
We've got
it's
Hagler.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
Oh,
5
yeah.
properties.
Mhm, yeah, it's not the last.
Well, Ellen Hagler passed away, but Dory is using that house, her daughter.
Albert and I might actually agree on
I
something.
didn't know that one.
So,
I just really don't
passed away last
ask for a dog.
She.
I kind of agree with
she's
you.
Put the kayaks in
Wait,
the back
over
of the
the-
truck and take them to.
Or get a kayak rack at Woods Beach.
Or, take them somewhere and
Yeah.
paddle someplace different, I don't know. That's what I always did.
Down to Grace's Lane, you go down to Grace's Lane where they launch the boat. It's easy to put it in your pickup truck and just drive it down.
Yeah.
Shouldn't look at GIS, I'm like, what is all this trash in the wetlands area? From your neighbor, who is leaving that there?
So where are we landing on this?
I don't mind the idea of shortening it.
Mm-hmm.
There are pictures here, right? No,
Pictures of,
from the water going back to the house, no?
oh, in the application?
Yeah, I just wanted to see,
No.
no.
This would be precedent setting. The dock and Dickerson Creek.
It's for non-motorized only.
Without the non-motorized, I'm definitely a hard no.
Right, yeah, but they've already agreed to that, so.
Yeah.
I think it's a condition of the DEC and Army Corps permit.
But it was more vague there, wasn't it? Weren't those permits talking about kayaks and?
I mean, if we shorten the dock, it would have to be contingent upon them getting a new updated DEC and Army Corps permit.
Really?
So
I was thinking,
if we do go back and say, cut 30 feet off the dock,
Mhm.
you can have a 6-foot platform at the end of your 50-foot ramp or something like that. Then it would have to go back to the DEC and Army Corps for approval because we're changing the depth of the water there. So if we do that, the resolution should just make it contingent upon the
Yes.
DEC and Army Corps approving
Signing
that
off.
change, yeah.
What happened to your original opinion?
I haven't necessarily changed it, I'm just saying, these are the conditions if we were to do that.
wait, what was your original?
I don't like it.
Oh.
He's checking.
I like to look at all the options out there, looking at all the options.
I say that I think this could be a precedent setting. This is what did we say, 5 of the houses?
Yeah,
I agree.
And if the town has never allowed a dock except for that one that is next door to this, we do this, how do you say no?
Well, then I'd start thinking of other places like Crab Creek. Are people on Crab Creek gonna want a dock to launch their kayak instead of just going to the landing?
I mean, I do, I hang my hat on a comp plan, scenic vistas, to protect them.
I have a problem with it just being so long. I just think that's part of the issue. I like the idea of people not walking through the marsh to get into the water. Deterrent, nobody wants to walk through the marsh because it is icky and uncomfortable, so
Yeah.
the likelihood that they're gonna do that is probably minimal. When you could just stick it in the back of the truck and take it to the beach somewhere else.
We want
Or
to
blue
think on this.
flags on the car.
Yeah.
It's-
We want to think on this and pick it up again next week.
I mean, what's
What's going to
what's
change?
people's initial reactions? Like, what do people think? Albert's a no.
I'm going to go with no.
Gordon's gonna go with the no.
You're going with
I'm
no.
I'm feeling like a no.
Okay.
Um.
I really
Take it
think
easy.
you were going over for a second. I stopped breathing.
I was like, oh no, chief is up, right? I mean, I could be swayed with a solid enough argument. I'm just not sure that there's like 5 other properties in there. I don't necessarily know that I want to see 5 more docks in that space. It is our best example of a real natural marsh, but it is also struggling. Like, I've watched it deteriorate over the last decade. It's slowly filling in, and it's not gonna get better. We're not gonna dredge all the way into the creek because someone has a kayak dock. So the dredging is really just going to go to the town landing where the police boat lives, because, that's what makes sense.
Probably find a different place to put the police, but to be honest with you.
Which we could over time, but right now, that's really our only spot on the south side, unless we're gonna try to rent space from that boatyard or something, which that gets really expensive. So, you have to sell me.
Yeah, you bring up a good point about the dredging. We're not going to dredge that far in. And if
Right.
it continues to fill in, this will
It
get,
is, it's getting shallower and shallower every season.
And a really super low tide, there's no water.
Oh, no, it's mud all the way out. You see the crab traps, the crabs are just like, help, they're dry, it's dry, there's nothing in there.
My dog goes in there and comes out covered in mud.
If there are unique factors that you consider about a particular site, then in that case, I don't think you have to worry about setting a precedent, because your decision is based upon the unique features of a particular site, such as you're not going to dredge. There's no other way for this applicant to achieve what they're trying to achieve, that sort of consideration. That would not be universal in its application.
closer to a no.
I mean, I think we need to make a list of the reasons why, yes, so
Yeah,
that we have a
why-
solid.
Why we're denying it.
You know what I wanted to look at?
You can help you with that, maybe.
And this was a 222.
Yeah, and that was a very
Yeah,
good
that's,
conversation inside the WM.
I was gonna say,
Yeah,
that's an unusual vote.
It is an unusual vote for them too.
Yes, it is. I calculated.
Why are you looking for that? Hub actually has a really great map like an interactive map of all the wetlands
Oh.
and protected areas, so I was just,
Yes.
the Peconic Fishery Partnership,
Yeah.
so I was just gonna look on that, but I can do that later.
What are we doing?
Reasons,
Is that,
the reasons,
Reasons for denial.
Niall.
Scenic vistas for the draft comprehensive plan.
Yep.
Extreme low tides, expose the bottom there. Historically, no docks in Dickerson Creek.
There's that one,
Yeah.
but it's very old.
It almost looks like that one's on this property. The other dog.
Yep,
It's right on the property line.
I know. I've never walked inside that creek. Is it soft muck?
It is, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like up to your knees.
Right, that's what I thought.
Yeah,
Yep.
Because I know off the Needham property, I've walked in.
eats your shoes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So could it be something of a safety issue?
Well,
If you're out there alone, you can definitely get stuck.
Mm-hmm.
not quicksand, but
No, but the stuff, you really you get stuck.
you lose your water shoes at the least.
At the very
It
least,
always feels gross.
it's so gross.
We have a few to start with and.
Yeah, and we can think on it.
Yeah, think on it and.
Email ideas. I'll look up some things that I wanted to check out. Are working at the moment.
The other part of that, I don't think you would really want the storage of kayaks there.
well, if they're on the dock.
Huh?
If they're on the dock.
Yeah.
Why? What's the thinking?
It's just, it goes back to the vista.
Oh, yeah, visual.
Okay, it's kind of like a boat lift.
Yeah.
That's why they're banned in Jungle Island.
The other thing too is if we were gonna shorten the dock, it was a ramp, and so wouldn't be able to keep it stored on.
Stephen,
There have to be some landing at the bottom of
Yeah,
the
there-
ramp,
yeah,
so
there
if you
has
get
to,
momentum, you don't just whoop right into the
Yeah.
water.
Stephen, I have a question.
Sure.
Precedent setting, that doesn't have any relevance? I'm always, when representatives of applicants come in, they always, not always, but in some instances, they've said, well, you approved this here, so.
Right. What the
It's the same thing.
consideration with the precedent is that similarly situated people and similarly situated properties should be treated similarly. But what I was saying before, and I'm not taking a position one way or another on the matter that's before you now, but if you find that that a particular site has unique features that justify a certain decision, then you're going to make a decision that won't necessarily apply to other dissimilar sites.
Got it.
I mean, if your reason for granting an application or for denying it if your reasons are based on something unique about that particular property, then it wouldn't necessarily be relevant or applicable to another application that doesn't share those unique features.
Thank you.
But it's true that if you don't have that difference, then you should treat similarly situated people similarly.
And as you mentioned, Crab Creek, I mean, we have a lot of these areas around the island that you really, it's not,
Because it's, it's not, it wouldn't just be Crab Creek, it's, I mean, and that, this might actually be more of a code revision kind of concept, but, you're also looking at Chase Creek and some of these other places.
right.
These inland water bodies that have pretty significant tidal shifts where it's dry at low tide. Is it the best place for a dock? I don't know.
And I used to live in a house on Crab Creek for 6 years that had a little rickety dock. And I would not want to see that thing rebuilt or any other dock built in Crab Creek.
Right. So just similar places. I mean, it looks like there are a few, but.
All right, so we can move on from this one?
Yeah, we'll come with email IDs.
Landfall properties, this was.
This one's off Mashonack, so it's
Gotcha.
that, and it's another kayak dock. But this is more open water.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's.
Yeah, and the WMAC, just as a reminder, was a 5-1 to approve. One
Right.
member opposed the application since the dock reaches less than 2.5 feet of.
5-2.
Right, 5-2 to approve.
Oh, I had 5-1 on the.
No, excuse me. 5-1, I'm sorry. I'm looking at the wrong thing.
One was 2.5 feet.
Yeah, that it reaches less than
Isn't a real
2.5.
concern if it's just a non-motorized kayak.
Yeah, for putting
Right.
in non-motorized.
The WMAC too, they wanted to make sure if this was approved, that that was part of the town permit. The motorized
For
vessel.
motorized, yes.
Right.
Yeah, I thought this one was an easier one,
Mm-hmm.
like if we put in non-motorized.
Right.
This one, 110 feet
Yeah.
overall. Yeah, overall, it's 100. It's in, again, we're getting too much.
It actually looks like it starts at like just above mean high water. There's actually a
Mhm.
path through the marsh.
They're getting out to over 2 feet of water.
Right,
Mhm.
47 now.
It could be shortened if we so choose and still be
There
acceptable.
is a dock at the property right next door. So here, I can share my screen.
Yeah, the one next door is 115 feet. It does look like it. See on the picture.
Doing it? There it goes.
There you go.
So the one in yellow is the property we're discussing. That's the dock next door.
One next to that is much shorter.
I can zoom out and kind of show you where Moshamik is.
So it's on that side of Taylor's Island.
Right. It's kind of where all the boats anchor.
Yeah.
Because don't they come in and anchor right in here?
That is the anchor field.
So, yeah.
What's the addresses?
47L.
Yeah.
So 47,
South Ferry Road.
so 47 is, that's Buzzy Clark's old build, that's Buzzy Clark.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
What's the one to the dock that's second from the one adjacent?
This one?
Yeah, that one, yes.
See.
Just to note that the anchor field is to the right, but there's no one anchors in front of this.
77 feet?
Not in front of these houses, you're right.
No, there's no one anchors there.
There are some
It's
pilings out
probably like
there.
an 80-foot top.
Like, that could be why no one's anchoring it, is the pilot.
Yeah, it's like 80 feet. Yeah, this one's not really going through a marshy area, it's just the beach, it's next to another dock.
I mean, in general, the MAC didn't have a real problem with this.
And this doesn't have pilings or anything that would be out in the waterway, so I think it's okay with it.
Would you want to shorten it a little bit?
The depth would allow that if we so choose.
10 feet, keep it to 100.
It's an 80-foot catwalk.
It looks like based on where the pilings are to support the dock, they're generally 10 feet apart. It's still in 2.2 feet of water.
Oh, to take 10 feet off, you said?
Yeah.
Oh,
then
yeah.
Then it's 100 feet.
Yeah, if you take 10 feet off, it puts it in 2 feet of water.
Which is where it's landing right now for this.
Right.
And the ladders are already in the same,
Right.
back beyond
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, just taking off one
Yeah, and then we-
step in a pile.
And then we keep it 100 feet per code.
Right.
That makes sense.
Far out is the dock alongside of it, that existing dock.
That one, I
150.
didn't measure, but I think it's 100.
Yeah, this says dock right float 115 feet for the one next door. But the one on the other side looks like 80 feet.
It's also at 115 feet, it's non-conforming,
Yes,
so.
but they were probably trying to get to 2.5 feet.
Yeah,
They've got a motorized vessel on it.
Right.
there's a good argument to make this conforming, say.
Because of the non-motorized, I mean, it would be
Yeah.
non-conforming if it was motorized, because then we have to get to 2.5.
Yeah, no, but we're not doing that, so.
I guess technically it is conforming because it's 100 feet from mean high water, that's how we meant the rate to set it.
Yeah, I think it is, you're right.
So from mean high water, it's correct. And it looks like the pier line will be the same. There, they'll line up.
So I guess it is already in conforming at the existing length.
Yeah.
Okay. So what do we think? Keep it as is?
I'm okay with it as is. It's code compliant, it's in an area with other docks and pretty open water, an area where people anchor.
Anybody else? Anybody? Feel it
I think I'm okay.
as is?
Are we shortening this?
Well, that's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
I mean,
But
it's
It's code compliant because it's, the 110 feet isn't starting from mean high water. If you start from mean high water, it is 100 feet.
So that means code.
Yeah. Except for the not getting to 2.5 feet of water, but
But that's why.
we're good with that.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're not concerned about the 2.5 because
No.
non-motorized vessels can use it, that's all.
Mhm. Yeah.
So even 10 feet might,
It's good. Well, I'm okay with it. I mean, with the change,
Taking off 10 feet or keeping it as is?
no, taking the 10 feet off. The,
Yeah, I was saying take 10 feet off when I thought it was not code compliant. But now that it's 100 feet and code compliant for mean high water, I'm okay with the length.
non-motorized.
Right.
Keeping
Non-motorized.
non-motorized, yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so
And we'll just make a condition of the application that it has, or permit that it has to be non-motorized vessels.
Yeah.
Okay.
That takes us to,
Poppins?
Mhm.
Yeah. This one, they're taking everything out of the wetlands and moving it behind 100 foot.
yeah. A wetlands application, this one seems pretty easy.
It's like, thank you for doing the right thing.
Yeah, so I'm looking at Teresa Mason's report that was revised. So she puts in the following conditions, that the permit's in strict conformance with the plans prepared by Matt Sherman dated April 11th, 2025. This is talking about wetlands permit approval, that's us. The naturally vegetated wetland, non-disturbance, non-fertilization buffer shall be shown in all surveys. Doesn't apply.
The number 4, maintaining
Yeah. Restored to native vegetation. We'd want number 4 in there.
yeah.
CAC wanted no dewatering.
Good.
Yeah. So we can do the restored buffer.
Yeah.
We'll add all that.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm.
And that's already in code number 8, it's already in code.
Mm-hmm.
The 9 will keep in. There's fences.
We done with fences before?
Fences,
We say no fences in the last
no,
one?
we
I don't
kind
think we
of
did.
delete that one.
Yeah,
We
I was
don't
gonna say
do
we
that
have
one.
to put that one in.
I'm addressing that in the new wetlands code,
Right.
because technically the town doesn't really regulate those, but the DEC has a say.
Yeah.
Same thing with utilities.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
The town doesn't do that one.
yeah.
Storage or renting of docks, dams, boats, other watercraft. We don't have a rule against that in code.
Mm-hmm. Any soils excavated off-site. If it's
Being
not
pulled back
used.
down the 100-foot level.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're pulling all the new construction back. They won't store anything in that. That could be a condition, is no storage of materials or,
Before,
yeah.
skipped over that one.
Planning board member had the two significant trees in the vicinity of the pool that they recommended that an arborist come in to find the root zones and that they protect. I don't know. I guess that could be a condition on the resolution. The other thing they brought up is the amount of impervious surfaces. And there doesn't seem to be any site drainage capture.
Well,
For those, I don't, I know there is,
Yeah, that'll be covered into the building.
Dry wells,
permit,
but-
Yeah. Because we're dealing with everything in the 100-foot, so just the demo of all the existing stuff. And then they do have dry wells and stuff for the new construction, that's gonna have to meet code. So
there is
that's
a
all-
number of
There's
driveways
quite a few,
there.
so
Yeah,
that's
those are outside of the.
all outside of the 100-foot, yeah,
outside,
they're not
yeah.
putting anything in the 100-foot. So
Yeah.
really what we're assessing is the demolition and restoration. So you're gonna want silt fence around the demolition area. So we'll do that one.
Yeah, 22 and 23.
22, 23. And then 24 is how quickly you have to revegetate so there's not runoff.
Mhm.
And keep number 25, construction access. I think
25?
26 is necessary, yeah, 25.
26 is construction access.
Right, yeah, we'll keep 25, but 26 doesn't
Okay.
necessarily make sense because it's not
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna be way outside of the
Yeah.
wetlands for that. And then 27 is code. Eight. 29 we'll keep in,
Yeah, final inspection.
and then, yeah, and 30.
Mm-hmm.
And, we can keep in 20, but that's in code that they have to have everything in gutters and later in dry wells.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have any plan sheets to look at the actual drawing. I know that it's over 55,999. That's it. It's not, but we don't have any plan sheets to look at.
Yeah, because that's not this application.
Because the building department would get that. And so if it was, then it gets sent to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. You good with this?
Yeah, I think that might be our, this year's
That's really good.
wetlands application ever.
Let's do one, Days.
Yeah.
Oh, they're making it easier, pulling everything out of the wetland.
Exactly, exactly.
The swimming pool patio is like 2
Yep.
inches outside the wetlands.
Yep.
But with rising sea levels,
Yeah, next year it'll be in the
you're gonna
wetlands.
want,
Yeah.
you're gonna want to keep pulling things back out of the wetlands.
Okay, all right. that was it for the main part of the agenda. Board member reports.
We have any meetings often.
Um, the Fresh Pond vegetation removal starts today and tomorrow. So people will see activity going on down around Fresh Pond. It's a week earlier than planned, but conditions were such that it worked out.
It's okay, we passed it yesterday.
It's always kind of fun to watch that thresher work.
Mhm.
It's like a floating thresher. It's so cool. It just goes through and it eats all the lily pads.
Yeah.
And it spits them out and takes them to the recycling center and mulches them. It's great.
Gotta get you a new hobby, man.
It's so much fun. Seriously, you'll love it. You should check it out. I highly recommend it.
Mhm. I'll go through announcements for, we're looking for Board of Ethics.
Yeah, the person I had in mind, I told you about,
Mhm.
they don't live in, the primary residence is on Shelter Island. And then that is one of the requirements.
Okay.
But back to square one.
Okay, so we'll keep posting that. Making a plea out there for Ethics Board. License Review Board, we haven't gotten any applications there. On-call CDL drivers and mini bus drivers desperately need, especially the CDL driver. So, yeah, if anybody knows anybody? Somebody wants to get their CDL license, maybe, but preferably someone already has it, so they can get started right away. Freelance home maintenance repair, another one where we have need out there and just not enough people that can go in and do that, the home repair program that gets paid for by the county. And since I was gone the latter part of last week, I don't have any meetings to report on. And I think WQI was canceled this week.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's a zoning board met, right?
Yeah, zoning board had their meeting on Wednesday.
Yeah, usually it's the beginning of the month. And also just for those who aren't aware, Town Hall is closed on Friday, July 4th.
I mean, Green Options met last week, but.
Can I just,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I just want to respond to something you said, Ben.
Yep.
I want to respond to something you said a moment ago.
Okay.
The Code of Ethics says that board members, it says the Board of Ethics shall consist of 5 members, all of whom reside in the town of Shelter Island. Now, you may not want to appoint someone who doesn't have Shelter Island as their primary residence, but the code doesn't say that, and a person can have more than one residence. But that's, of course, it's entirely a matter of discretion with you as to how you want to populate the board.
Oh, okay. Maybe I won't go back
Yeah.
to this person then.
Yeah, because I mean, we do have people who I think their primary residence might be Florida on other committees or Brooklyn or.
But I don't know what, her opinion will be of this. She may just say no way, but if she says yes, then we can make another decision.
I've had 2 people who I think are going to apply,
Oh, good.
okay, who are residents all year round.
All right,
So I think they'll be okay.
good.
I will take that flyer and send it to her. Do it right now.
Okay.
Meg, do you want to do green options?
Green Options is working on setting up the Green Expo. So working on getting the plans together for that event, the craft fair, where we have all the tables out. And so far, we have a bunch of town committees that are gonna have tables. And then we're reaching out to different green infrastructure industries. So last year we had someone who came with heat pumps to help explain how they work and what the benefits are. I think we're going to try to have someone from the solar industry there to talk about it. What we're going to do this year, which is different from last year, is in addition to the Green Expo, so the Green Expo is Saturday, then on Sunday, we're having a solar house tour. So you can actually go and look at people's homes who've done solar installations, and they can talk to you about it, explain to you the cost savings that they've had, what the process was like, how it's working, what they like about it, what they don't like about it, what they would have done differently. And so each one of the homes that's choosing to participate in this will also kind of have a breakdown of the cost benefit, the expense of it, how much energy they're generating, so how is it offsetting their electrical bill. So it's going to be kind of fun, and and
That's
the
great. That
Presbyterian
sounds
Church is
great.
going to be participating too, because they did solar on their roof. So we'll have like the whole house tour, and then once you're done with the tour, you can go back to the Presbyterian Church, and we'll have kind of like a wrap up where people can talk about what they saw and any questions they have. And so that's going to be new this year. It'll be in the afternoon, so it'll be Sunday afternoon, I think, I wrote it down.
What's the date again, Meg?
It's August 24th is going to be the house tour. And it's going to be from 1:30 to 5:30. And it'll be similar to the way they do the other house tours, like the Historical Society does theirs, where you just get a list of places and you can go at your leisure and check them out within this time frame. We're going to do something very similar with this. And then at 5:30, everyone's going to gather at the church to kind of debrief on what you saw. So that'll be Sunday, the 24th. The Green Expo and the Craft Fair is Saturday on the 23rd, so it's the day before. Kind of did that intentionally so we can advertise at the expo and get people excited about the house tour. We're also wrapping up the ETIP. We got a final draft of the report that is going to be issued to the town. Now we're just waiting for the Department of Energy to sign off on it. So essentially give us a release that we can give it to the public. So we're waiting for that approval before they're going to actually give it to us to officially share with everybody. So we're wrapping that program up. So hopefully we'll have that presentation in August, I'm thinking. Might be right around the Green Expo time. It will probably go into September. It'll probably be a series of presentations because the ETIP grant looked at a whole bunch of different aspects of resiliency and energy generation for Shelter Island. So it looked at things like solar, tidal energy, geothermal, just all the different, there's like 3 or 4 different things that it kind of looked at. And it gave a realistic kind of overview on what we could really feasibly do. You know, some things like tidal energy are super cool, but the technology hasn't gotten to the point where it would be effective for us to try to implement it. But it's something that maybe in 20, 30 years could be viable. So they did a pretty good, well-rounded report letting us know what we could do to become more resilient as an island. And a lot of it kind of leaned towards solar and getting residences on solar and some solar projects that we as a town could do. So it's going to be kind of fun. So we should probably have that end of August, maybe September. And then,
July 17th. The Presbyterian Church
oh yeah,
Environmental Forum with the WAC.
yep. It's sort of in conjunction with the Perfect Earth Project. So they're going to do a green landscaping or a environmentally friendly landscaping kind of forum on different ways you can manage your lawn, maintain your gardens without using chemicals, pesticides, herbicides, and how to create a more natural lawn for, you know, pollinators, for you, for all the little wildlife. So that should be kind of cool. There's going to be a series of speakers. We'll talk about all kinds of things. So
What time is that?
that's going to be the 17th at 5:30, from 5:30 to 7:30 in the Presbyterian Church. And that's in conjunction with the WAC, as Ben said. So we have multiple committees working together. It's happy. Then we have a wetlands code review meeting tomorrow. Hopefully this is the last one, might be optimistic, but maybe this will be the last meeting to go over the code before we can kick it to the town board to look at and Stephen to look at. I think we've done some pretty good work on it.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think we've added kind of an administrative section for things that maybe we're not regulating right now, but should be looked at and should have some kind of oversight. So we're gonna work on that, fine tune it. I had a few questions when I was trying to work on creating the application for the administrative review, so we'll hash that out as a group before we decide it's good to go. And we're also interviewing for building inspectors, so that's also in the works. I think that's all I have for now.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I can, okay, with the, I was just thinking of WAC, you know, I guess at one of the last meetings, they talked about enforcement. Okay, and it is something I think to look at, and I think it came out of the committee where they felt, you know, maybe just stopping some of the people who are fertilizing or the trucks that are coming on the island to do like a random check. I think that, you know, it doesn't have to be like a regular basis, but just what everybody will notice, if you check a few people, they know that you're doing some things. I think that would be a good policy, okay?
Check them for like a town license.
Licensing and, you know, the same thing like with irrigation and so forth. So it's just a question of like random checking. This way people know it. I was kind of happy to hear about the camera that's down at Ways Beach, because that really is, that deters people from doing things, okay? And I think if people know, hey, we never know when they're going to come, it sort of puts everybody on record, okay, on their edge of their seat, okay? We did have a capital planning and capital planning and grants committee meeting today. They're preparing something to present to the town board. It was a pretty interesting group. I'm sort of getting a better understanding of how that whole thing works. You know, I'm not going to go through the whole thing because we had this long meeting with it, okay? But I think that they're going to put something together for the budget season, okay? And I think that'll come out soon. And pretty much the only other thing that I wanted to share with the group, okay, is that this week, on last Sunday or Saturday, I forgot which day now. The Shelter Island Historical Museum had a very nice display on the White property. Okay, I don't know whether anybody's had an opportunity, but they did publish a book, okay? It was sponsored by the Menantic Colony community, okay? They helped fund the thing, but it was just, they did a wonderful job putting a little catalog together. Multiple generations of families were there. It was really it was a very, very nice event. Nelson White was there, the artist, and it was something the town should be proud of over preservation. And I suggest everybody try to make it a goal to come down there and visit. So I had an extra book, okay, so I just like everybody to take a look at it, okay? And it was just really great to see just generational people, you know, family members there, and they have it open in the big morning, okay, for just family members, and then the public was invited later on, and it's worthwhile to see. And I think the town, this board, okay, should be very happy about having acquired that property. I think it's a real win situation. But pretty much that's all I have.
How long is that running to? How long is that
It's
going
going to go all summer, through most of the summer. Yeah, but it was nice. The Menantic Montclair Colony put some money forward to host it. Okay, so it was really a community collaboration.
Nice.
I did forget one of my committees, not intentionally. Health and Wellness is they're working on an event for Tuesday, July 22nd, and it's gonna be a brain day event. So it's all about brain injury, brain health and wellness. They're gonna try to have a couple different speakers. They're gonna have some tables set up with information. And it's gonna be under the library tent. I don't know the hours yet. I'm not sure, but it should be a really interesting presentation and discussion. So it'll be, brain and aging, brain and traumatic brain injury. So that's one of the things they're working on. And they're also working on a community needs assessment, kind of evaluating some of the less talked about needs in the community, like social work needs, food insecurities, things like that, loneliness. So right now, they've been interviewing kind of key stakeholders in the community, people who work a lot with the public, just to kind of get an idea of what they're thinking and what they're seeing. And then we're going to boil it down to a survey that will be sent out island-wide to the public, just so that we can get kind of their responses. And then just to give us an idea of what kind of information we need to be getting to the public better. What kind of services do we need to be referring people to? What kind of networks do we need to create with our neighboring towns to help get people services that they need that we're lacking? So that's kind of the goal. It's not necessarily for the town to start developing and creating some of these services, because we know that's beyond us, but to help us put our efforts into better networking with the communities around us and the services that are already available, and making sure that the community knows about those services. So we're doing this to make sure that all of our energy is going in effective and productive directions. And because they're a new committee, they want to make sure that they're actually, addressing the actual health and wellness needs of the community, and not just doing what they think the community needs, which may not be what the community actually needs. So we're kind of in the beginning stages of that.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
What was the date of the library tent?
July 22nd, and it's under the tent, but I don't know the time yet. When I know the time, I'll let everybody know. Now that's all I got.
Okay. And Albert, did you have anything?
No.
Okay, just a reminder that we are going, next week's work session devoted to mostly Gardeners Bay Country Club. So come, take this week to review everything that we've gotten so far, correspondence, PW grocery reports, et cetera, just so we can come back with questions to really start to narrow down what do we want to have answered at our final public hearing on that.
Right.
So I'm including myself in making sure I do my homework.
Do we have to wait till the public hearing to have their water engineer come talk to us?
Yeah, because since it's an open public hearing, yes.
Okay.
Okay, make a motion to adjourn the work session to go into executive session to discuss the employment history of an employee and contract negotiation.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.